Hi, I'm Chris Hunsaker with Hunsaker Coaching International, and welcome to what I believe is day 30 of our COVID or shut-in series. And I want to start today with a defining moment for me, an experience where I first learned principles that I want to talk to you about today around optimism and mental toughness and confidence that have served me my whole life. I was sitting in Germany, and the situation is that I had graduated college, I graduated high school, wasn't ready to go to college, was working at a great job that I really enjoyed, made some really good money, and I'd decided that I'd really like to go live in Europe, and I'd like to learn to speak German. So I knew one family in Germany where I'd been an exchange student for a few weeks, and I called them up and I said, "Hey, can I come?" And they go, "Yeah, we'd love to have you." So I got a ticket, flew over to Germany, and literally walked around until I could find a job. Learn to speak the language a little bit, because when you're 19 and you'd like to date a German girl, it really helps to speak German. I had high internal motivation. And as I went through, I started to realize, hey, there were jobs. I could do them. I could get a job. It could work out. I talked to a couple of the big hotels in downtown Hamburg, and I had 3 different job offers. So all I needed now was a work permit. And so the time for my return ticket had come. And I didn't want to return because I really thought I had a job. So I called up the airlines to see if I could cash in the return half of my ticket, thinking that half the ticket was out and half the ticket is back, and therefore they'll get. No, they did not give me that. As a matter of fact, I found out that I couldn't get any of the money back. So now I've missed my flight. I can't get my money back from my flight, but I think no problem, right? Just commit, go forward. We're going to work this out. And I'm going to get one of these 3 jobs. One of them was at the Intercontinental Hotel in Hamburg, which I was super excited about. And I went through everything. They said, "Great, we'd love to hire you. All you need to do is go down to this place and get your work permit." So I go down and I apply for my work permit. And I get through all the German bureaucracy and everything. I'm down to my final interview where they're going to sign my paper so I can go back and start my job. And I sit down with her and she goes, "Oh, you're from the United States?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Where are you from in the United States?" I said, "New Jersey." She said, "Oh, my son is in the United States." I said, "That's great. What's he doing?" He said, "He's applying for a job." And I said, "Oh, great. What's he going to do?" He goes, "Nothing. He's going to come home because he was denied a work permit." Now, what can I do for you? Now, I knew she knew what I needed. And I said, "Well, I need an Arbeitserlaubnis, which is a work permit." And she said, "No. Now I have no plane, no money, no job, and no work permit." So I called home to talk to my parents, explained to them the situation. My parents basically said, "Wow, sucks to be you. We can't help you out." Now, when you're in a foreign country with technically no place to live, I am still staying with the family, no job, no work permit, and no money, and your parents said, "Yeah, you're on your own. Good luck." What do you do? Well, this is when I first came to know myself. Like, what am I made of? What can I do? And I thought, you know what? There's all kinds of people in the United States that work without work permits. There must be people in Germany that work without work permits. Let me see what I can find. So I talked to the father of the family that I was working with and explained the situation. He said, "Let me talk to some people." And he introduced me to someone and introduced me to someone. Anyway, the chain went through about 6 people. Finally, there was the owner of a golf club who needed someone that could speak English and German, and as a bartender waiter to work at the golf club. And part of the job was you got a room to stay at the golf course because they needed you to stay there. Now, that was 3.5 hard weeks of really pushing myself to the edge. And I needed to see if I had the flexibility. When that stimulus came and the response, I created space in the way that I thought, in the way that I talked to myself, in the way that I showed up, so that I could be creative enough to solve a problem. It turned out to be a great job. I met some incredible people and really had some good stuff. Now, lest you think things always work out, as the summer's coming to an end and I'm having this great experience at the job, there's one American there who works at the military base close by. And he keeps engaging me in conversation. And then finally one day he talks to my boss and finds out I don't have a work permit. So every single day when he would come in, he would say, "You know, I can turn you in today and make sure that you don't have a job and you get deported." And the first time I said, "Well, if you could please not, it would really help me." And every day he would make some jab at me that he was going to turn me in and he was going to get me and he was there. So again, I came up to this place where, do I go to bed every night wondering if he's going to turn me in and I'm not going to have a job anymore? And my thought was, no. If I got one job without a work permit, I can get a second job without a work permit. This is what I call knowing your history. one of the most important exercises that I ever do with people, and that I encourage you to do during this COVID time, is begin to think on paper again, to write down your history of success, your history of excellence. See, most of us, when we get afraid and the fight, flight, freeze comes in, we shut down, we stop thinking, and I think, oh no, the only job I could possibly get without a work permit is gone. Now I'm never going to be able to get a job because I don't have a work permit, and the lady that's in charge of it is never going to give it to me because she hates me and I'm not going to be able to do this. But I didn't. I stopped the space and I said, if I got one job without a work permit, I can get a second job without a work permit. And I did. This is critical. What I want you to do today, and I'm going to dive into this more at the end, but the exercise, I want you to think of the skills that you have, your patience, your perseverance, your creativity. There is an origin story to every single skill set you have. To every good thing about your life, there is an origin story. And I'm going to encourage you to stop and go back to it and think it and write it down. What I'm sharing with you is the origin story of my grit. The origin story of how I will not be defeated by circumstances. Now, I didn't design it, and I wish it hadn't happened, but I can tell you it was in Germany by myself, all alone, with no one around me and no money and no one to support me, that I met myself. And the man that I met, I found grit. I worked on grit. I developed grit. I developed a tenacity to stick with things until I got my outcome, until I got there. You all have that too, but most of us just get stuck. And we never take the time to look back. And so we never develop the confidence. We're a prisoner of the fear of the moment. We're a prisoner of the injustice of the moment. We're a prisoner of the circumstances of the moment. And we're disconnected from who we really are. This is why mindfulness is so critical. This is why stopping to think is so important. Why I'm begging you in these activities to stop and write and go down. Because when you meet yourself, that's when you have to decide, who do you really want to be? The mental toughness to take a punch, look down in your hand, see your teeth, and say, you know what? I'm going to figure out a way. That's what I did in Germany. Now, I didn't lose my teeth, but I lost a lot of other stuff. And I literally had to sit there in a foreign country with a language I didn't totally speak and say, there has to be a way. I'm going to figure it out. There was a sense of optimism about how I did things. Optimism is, by definition, the idea that you can look in the future and know things are going to work out. And I'm not talking about naive optimism. I'm talking about real optimism based on your experience. In other words, you build a framework of the world that says, I can be mentally tough. I can be flexible and vulnerable. I can be nimble. I can adjust to whatever comes at me. I can pivot when things are unfair or unjust. I can create on demand because I need to. I can go forward when everybody else has stopped. I can laugh, but mostly I can stay in it when it's hard. I can stay in it when the market turns against me. I can stay in it when my relationship is hard and my spouse. I can stay in it with one of my kids when it gets really difficult. It's this idea that mental toughness is not like 1970s, like, I can be real strong. It's that when life is unfair, unjust, difficult, when your dreams get torn apart, when circumstances like COVID come in that you absolutely cannot control, it's stopping and saying, I know the future is going to work out because the past has. I saw a great meme a while back that said, so far, you have survived 100% of all the bad days in your life. Think about that. If you stop and take time to connect to who you are, remember, when you get pushed to the edge of your capacity and the fight or flight starts to kick in, that's when you meet yourself. And you have to decide, who do you want to be? Tough? Mentally tough? Optimistic? Do you want to know that you can solve this problem? That's what I'm going to ask you to look at. And every single strength that you have has an origin story. Write that story down. Tell that story to yourself. Repeat it to yourself. Go back to it so that you have the ability, when you need to, when you get pushed to the edge, when things are most difficult, you can go back to this origin story and say, you know what? I can solve this problem because I've done it in the past. I found one job without having a work permit. I could find a second job without having a work permit. Any obstacle you face, There's something in your past that was similar, and you faced that obstacle, that problem, and you overcame it. You found a way to be vulnerable and nimble. You found a way to be flexible, to create on demand, to pivot, to do all the things that are necessary to move forward. And so my assignment for you today, and what I beg you to do, is stop and understand mental toughness and optimism are psychological skills that can be learned. And if you use sets and repetition and practice, you can get more and more of that done. But I want you to start with this. Every single skill you have has an origin story. Take out a journal, grab some paper, get a Diet Coke, a beer, a glass of wine, whatever you love. Find a peaceful place and look back, as far back in your memory as you can go. The skills that you have, the strengths that you have, the character pieces that you like, what is their origin story? Write it down, and then write the examples of how it developed over time. Where did it get stronger? Where did it expand? Where did it contract? And where did it fall away? And reclaim those origin stories, and then begin to look at how can I bring into the future, into the present moment, a chance to expand the gap, and in that gap, reconnect to the fact that I can solve this problem because I've solved 100 like it in the past. And that's what I'll give you for your assignment today. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your shut-in. This is a great day. Look forward to talking to you on the next video.